Hare Krishna, Prabhuji San Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Sallu Shishila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for joining for Japa call. So let us begin with Mangalashrina prayer and we'll start reading. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिते नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. We are reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, first chapter, 7th chapter, entitled as Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. So let us continue from this verse. You are able to see my screen, right? Hare Krishna. Yes. Yeah. Begin with Mataji's. Yes. Deepa Mata, you can start.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord is like a great blazing fire, and the living entities are like small sparks of that fire. Purport. Although sparks and a big fire are both fire, and both have the power to burn, the burning power of the fire and that of the spark are not the same. Why would one artificially try to become like a big fire, although by constitution he is like a small spark? It is due to ignorance. Therefore, understand that neither the Supreme Personality of Godhead nor the small spark-like living entities have anything to do with matter. But when the spiritual spark comes in contact with the material world, his fiery quality is extinguished. That is the position of the conditioned souls. Because they are in touch with the material world, their spiritual quality is almost dead. But because these spiritual sparks are all Krishna's parts and parcels, as the Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivamsha, they can revive their original position by getting free from material contact. This is pure philosophical understanding. In the Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual sparks are declared to be Sanatana, eternal. Therefore, the material energy Maya cannot affect their constitutional position. Someone may argue, why is there a need to create the spiritual sparks? The answer can be given in this way. Since the absolute personality of Godhead is omnipotent, he has both unlimited and limited potencies. This is the meaning of omnipotent. To be omnipotent, he must have not only unlimited potencies, but limited potencies also. Thus, to exhibit his omnipotency, he displays both. The living entities are endowed with limited potency, although they are part of the Lord. The Lord displays the spiritual world by his unlimited potencies, whereas by his limited potencies, the material world is displayed. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.5, the Lord says, Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Besides these inferior energies, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprises of living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material nature, inferior nature. The Jiva Bhuta, the living entities, control this material world with their limited potencies. Generally, people are bewildered by the activities of scientists and technologists. Due to Maya, they think that there is no need of God and that they can be everything and anything, but actually they cannot. Since this cosmic manifestation is limited, their existence is also limited. Thing in this material world is limited, and for this reason there is creation, sustenance, and dissolution. However, in the world of unlimited energy, the spiritual world, there is neither creation nor destruction. Should
Continue. Completely. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. If the personality of Godhead did not possess both limited and unlimited energies, he could not be called omnipotent. Anor aniyam mahato mahiyan. The Lord is smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest. He is smaller than the smallest in the form of living entities and greater than the greatest in his form of Krishna. If there were no one to control, there would be no meaning to the conception of the supreme controller, Ishvara. Just as there is no meaning to a king without his subjects. If all the subjects became king, there would be no distinction between the king and an ordinary citizen. Thus, for the Lord to be the supreme controller, there must be a creation to control. The basic principle for the existence of living entities is called Chidvilasa, or spiritual pleasure. The omnipotent Lord displays his pleasure potency as a living entities. The Lord is described in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12 as Anandamayo Bhyasat. He is by nature the reservoir of all pleasures, and because he wants to enjoy pleasure, there must be energies to give him pleasure or supply him the impetus for pleasure. This is the perfect philosophical understanding of the absolute truth. Hare Krishna.
How beautifully nice. Sai, Jai. So for his pleasure only, all living entities is created. Yeah. Anandamaya Vyasa. Beautiful. No, the sloka also. Can I see? That's where when we learn slokas, when we see in purports, it's more more connected things. So Srila Prabhupada, how he nicely quoted in this here. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Shravya Mataji, you'd like to read? Hare Krishna. Yeah, Lavanya, want to read?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The living entities are energies, not the energetic. The energetic is Krishna. This is very vividly described in the Bhagavad Gita, the Vishnu Purana, and other Vedic literatures. Purport. As I already explained, there are three prasthanas on the path of advancement in spiritual knowledge, namely Nyaya Prasthana, Vedanta philosophy, Shruti Prasthana, the Upanishads and Vedic mantras, and Smriti Prasthana, the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Puranas, etc. Unfortunately, Mayavada philosophers do not accept the Smriti Prasthana. Smriti refers to the conclusion drawn from the Vedic evidence. Sometimes Mayavadi philosophers do not accept the authority of the Bhagavad Gita and the Puranas, and this is called Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. Ardha Kukuti Nyaya. The logic of half a hen. See Adilila 5.176. If one believes in the Vedic literatures, one accepts all the Vedic literature recognized by the great acharyas, but the Mayavada philosophers accept only the Nyaya Prasthana and Shruti Prasthana, rejecting the Smriti Prasthana. Here, however, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cites evidence from the Gita, Vishnu Purana, etc., which are Smriti Prasthana. No one can avoid the personality of Godhead in the statements of the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature such as the Mahabharata and Puranas. Lord Chaitanya therefore quotes a passage from the Bhagavad Gita 7.5.
7.5. Maybe next verse is 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. This is the verse we are learning. Yes, thank you. Let us give it to the devotees. Yeah. Kinchan Prabhu, please start from your side.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Besides these inferior energies who mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is explained that the five elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, constitute the gross energy of the absolute truth, and that there are also three subtle energies, namely the mind, intelligence, and false ego, are identification with phenomenal world. Thus, the elder cosmic manifestation is divided into 8 energies, all which are inferior. As explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Maya Dhuratyaya, the inferior energy known as Maya is so strong that although the living entities does not belong to this energy, Due to the superior strength of the inferior energy, the living entity Jiva Bhuta forgets his real position and identifies with it. Krishna says distinctly that beyond the material energy, there is a superior energy which is known as Jiva Bhuta, are living entities. Well in contact with the material energy, this superior energy conducts all the activities of entire material phenomenal world. The supreme cause is Krishna, Jalmadya Asa Yata, who is the origin of all energies which work variously. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has both inferior and superior energies, and the difference between them is that superior energy is factually, whereas the inferior energy is the reflection of the superior. A reflection of the sun in a mirror or on water appears to be a sun but is not. Similarly, the material world is but a reflection of spiritual world. Although it appears to be factually, it is not. It is the only temporary reflection, whereas the spiritual world is factual reality. The material world with its gross and subtle form is merely a reflection of spiritual world.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Aryan Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The living entity is not a product of the material energy. He is spiritual energy. But in contact with matter, he forgets his identity. Thus, the living entity identifies himself with matter and enthusiastically engages in material activities in the guise of a technologist, scientist, philosopher, etc. He does not know that he is not at all a material product but a spiritual. His real identity thus being lost, he struggles very hard in the material world, and the Hare Krishna movement or Krishna conscious movement is trying to revive his original consciousness. His activities in manufacturing big skyscrapers are evidence of intelligence. But this kind of intelligence is not at all advanced. He should know that his only real concern is how to get free from material contact. For by observing his mind in material activities, he takes material bodies again and again. And although he falsely claims to be very intelligent, in material consciousness he is not at all intelligent. When we speak about the Krishna conscious movement, which is meant to make people intelligent, the conditioned living entity therefore misunderstands it. He is so engrossed in the material concept of life that he does not think that there can be any activities that are actually based on intelligence beyond the construction of skyscrapers and big roads and the manufacturing of cars. This is proof of Maya Patra Jnana, or loss of all intelligence due to the influence of Maya. When a living entity is freed from such misconceptions, he is called liberated. When one is actually liberated, he no longer identifies with the material world. The symptom of mukti, liberation, is that one engages in spiritual activities instead of also engaging in material activities. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. Chandraman Prabhu, please continue.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purpose by Srila Prabhupada. Transcendental loving devotional service is the spiritual activity of the spirit soul. Mayavadi philosopher confused such spiritual activity with the material activity, but the Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, 26th sloka confirms, Mamchayo Vyadicharena Bhakti Gogena Sevate Sagunan Samatityate Brahma Puyaya Kalpate. One who engages in the spiritual activities of unalloyed devotional service, Avyabhicharini Bhakti, is immediately elevated to the transcendental platform, and he is to be considered Brahmabhota, which indicates that he is no longer in the material world but in the spiritual world. Devotional service is an enlightenment or awakening when the living entity perfectly performs spiritual activities under the direction of spiritual master. He becomes perfect in knowledge and understands that he is not God but a servant of God. As explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jivera Swarupa Haya Krishnena Nitya Dasa. The real identity of the living entity is that he is an eternal servant of the Supreme, as long as one does not come to the conclusion, he must be in ignorance. This is also confirmed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, Sound chapter 19 sloka. Vahunam janma ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After many births of struggling for existence and cultivating knowledge, when one comes to the point of real knowledge, he surrenders unto me. Um, Such an advanced Mahatma or great soul is very rarely to be seen. Thus, although the Mayavadi philosophers appear to be very much advanced in knowledge, they are not yet perfect. To come to the point of perfection, they must voluntarily surrender to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. To come to the point of perfection, they must voluntarily surrender to Krishna. So there is no force. It's their own will, free will. Yes. Raju Prabhu, please read.
Krishna Prabhu, Dhanat Pranam. Translation. The potency of Lord Vishnu is summarized in three categories, namely the spiritual potency, the living entities, and ignorance. The spiritual potency is full knowledge. The living entities, although belong to the spiritual potency, are subjected to the bewilderment. And the third energy, which is full of ignorance, is always visible in fruitive activities. Purport. This quotation from the Vishnu Purana 6.7.61. In the previous verse quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, it has been established that the living entities are to be categorized among the Lord's potencies. The Lord is potent, and there are varieties of potencies. Parasya Saktir Vividaiva Struyate. Now, in this quotation from the Vishnu Purana, this is further confirmed. There are varieties of potencies, and they have been divided into three categories, namely spiritual, marginal, external. The spiritual potency is manifested in the spiritual world, Krishna form, qualities, activities, and interage are all spiritual. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.6. Ajopis snan avyayatma bhutan ishwaropi san prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma maya. Although I am unborn, my transcendental body never destroys. And although I am the Lord of all living entities, my spiritual potency, I still appear in millennium in my marginal transcendental form. Atma Maya refers to the spiritual potency. When Krishna comes in this or any other universe, he does so with the spiritual potency. We take birth by the force of the material potency. But as stated here with reference to the Vishnu Purana, the Kshetragna or living entity belongs to the spiritual potency. Thus, when we free from ourselves from the clutches of material potency, we can also enter the spiritual world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading. Let me read. The material potency is the energy of darkness or complete ignorance of spiritual activities. In the material potency, the living entity engages himself in fruitive activities, thinking that he can be happy through expansion in terms of material energy. This fact is prominently manifest in this age of Kali, because human society, not understanding the spiritual nature, is busily expanding in material activities. The men of the present day are almost unaware of their spiritual identity. They think that they are products of the elements of the material world and that everything will end with the annihilation of the body. Therefore, they conclude that as long as one has a material body consisting of material senses, one should enjoy the senses as much as possible. Since they are atheists, they do not care whether there is a next life. Such activities are described in this verse as avidya karma samnyanya. The material energy is separated from the spiritual energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, although it is originally created by the Supreme Lord, he is not actually present within it. The Lord also confirms in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Mastani Sarva Bhutani Everything is resting on me. This indicates that everything is resting on his own energy. For example, the planets are resting within outer space, which is the separated energy of Krishna. The Lord explains in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4, Bhumira Ponalo Vayu Kammano Buddhirevacha Ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakriti rastada. Earth, water, fire, air, either mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together, these eight constitute my separated material energies. The separated energy acts as if it were independent. But here it is said that although such energies are certainly factual, they are not independent, but merely separated. Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah. Mataji, you can again restart.
Yes. The separated energy can be understood from a practical example. I compose books by speaking into a dictaphone. And when the dictaphone is replayed, it appears that I am speaking personally, but actually I am not. I spoke personally, but then the dictaphone tape, which is separate from me, acts exactly like me. Similarly, the material energy originally emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it acts separately, although the energy is supplied by the Lord. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate cha characharam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. Under the guidance or superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the material energy works as if independent, although it is not actually independent.
Yeah, continue.
In this verse from Vishnu Purana, the total energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is classified in three divisions, namely the spiritual or internal potency of the Lord, the marginal potency or Kshetragya, the living entity, and the material potency, which is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and appears to act independently. When Srila Vyasadeva, by meditation and self-realization, saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he also saw the separated energy of the Lord standing behind him. Apashyat Purusham Purnam Mayam cha tad apashrayam. Vyasadeva also realized that it is this separated energy of the Lord, the material energy, that covers the knowledge of the living entity. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam tri gunatmakam. The energy bewilders the living entities, jivas, and thus they work very hard under its influence, not knowing that they are not fulfilling their mission in life. Unfortunately, most of them think that they are the body and should therefore enjoy the material senses irresponsibly, since when death comes, everything will be finished. This atheistic philosophy also flourished in India, where it was sometimes propagated by Charvaka Muni, who said, Rinam kritva ghritam pipet, yavat jivet sukham jivet, bhasmi bhutasya dehasya kutah punar agamano bhavet. His theory was that as long as one lives, one should eat as much ghee as possible. In India, ghee, clarified butter, is a basic ingredient in preparing many varieties of food. Since everyone wants to enjoy nice food, Charvaka Muni advised that one eat as much ghee as possible. One may say, I have no money. How shall I purchase ghee? Charvaka Muni, however, says, if you have no money, then beg, borrow, or steal. But in some way, secure ghee and enjoy life. For one who further objects that he will be held accountable for such unauthorized activities as borrowing and stealing, Charvaka Muni replies, you will not be held responsible as your body is burned to ashes after death. Everything is finished.
Yeah, little. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Begging, borrowing, stealing is given. So actually, that's in Ayurveda also says with ghee, if we cook, that is more pleasing and helps in our body. Clarified butter. Praveen Prabhu, yeah, please read. Prabhu. Please read. Yes.
This is called ignorance. From the Bhagavad Gita, it is understood that one does not die with the annihilation of his body. Nahante hanyamane sarire. The annihilation of one body involves changing to another. tatha dehantra prapti. Therefore, to perform irresponsible activities in the material world is very dangerous. Without knowledge of the spirit soul and its transmigration, people are allured by the material energy to engage in many such activities, as if one could become happy simply by dint of material knowledge without reference to spiritual existence. Therefore, the entire material world and its activities are referred to as avidya, karma, samgya, samangya.
Manya. Okay, yes, Prabhu.
In order to dissipate the ignorance of the human being who works under the material energy, which is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord comes down to revive their original nature of spiritual activities. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavanti bharata. As soon as they deviate from their original nature, the Lord comes to teach them sarv dharma parityajya mam ekam saranam brajaha. My dear living entities, give up all material activities and simply surrender unto me for protection. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Shall I continue, Babuji, or stop?
Yeah, complete.
Okay. It is the statement of Charvaka Muni that one should beg, borrow, or steal money to purchase ghee and enjoy life. Ranam kitva ghritam paivate. Thus, even the greatest atheist of India recommends that one eat ghee, not meat. No one could conceive of human being eating meat like tiger and dogs. But men have become so degraded that they are just like animals and can no longer claim to have a human civilization. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanvat pranam.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your yes, thank you. Yeah, we'll stop here. Let us practice the verses. We'll continue from this year next week, Monday. Thank you all for joining reading call. So let us go to sloka recitations. So today, Lavanya, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Translation, Deepamata, would you like to do translations?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you can read translation. Yeah, Shirisha Mata, you can read translations. Monday when we connect, you can do translation, slokas also, Mata, Shirisha Mata, okay?
Okay, Prabhuji. Monday she will
Yes,
do
Prabhuji.
focus and I will do translation, Prabhuji.
Right. Now you do translations. Shirisha Mata. Lavanya is going to do sloka recitations. Let's all practice. Yes? Yeah.
No, Prabhuji. Monday I will read slokas. You can give to Deepa Mataji translation.
Sure. Anybody, it's
Yes,
okay.
Prabhuji.
Anybody, it's okay. If you want to read, you can read translations. It's up to you. Yeah, let us begin, Lavanya.
Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 7.5. Apareyamita swanyam prakritim viddhime. Sorry.
మనం అట్లా ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తేనే మనకు అర్థం అయిపోతుంది మన అందరికి ఎంగేజ్మెంట్ ఉంటుంది అందరికి ఒక ఎంగేజ్మెంట్
I forgot. Yeah. Apareyamita swanyam
Apareyamitasanyam
prakritim viddhime param.
Prakritim viddhi me param
Jiva bhutam mahabaho
Jiva bhutam mahabaho
yayedam daryate jagat.
Yayedam daryate jagat
Apareyamita swanyam prakritim viddhi me param.
Apareyamitasanyam prakritim viddhi me param
Jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam daryate jagat.
Jiva bhutam mahabaho Yayedam daryate jagat
अपरेयमितस्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो येदं धार्यते जगत्
प्रकृतिं विधि मे परां
जीवभूतं महाबाहो
बाहो
वेदं धार्यते
धार्यते
जगत्।
जगत्।
Deepa Mataji, you change. Or Shirisha Mataji, it's up to you.
No, it is Sirisha Mataji who wanted to do translation.
No, Mataji, you continue, Mataji. I'll do Mataji.
Translation. With anybody else wants to do translation can also do.
Yeah.
Okay, Mataji, let me do that.
Yeah.
Do it. Yes. You follow. So this is the
Yeah.
thing, Praveen Prabhu.
Okay,
Each
Prabhu.
line
Yeah, I
where
will read all the
Rama-
translation. Prabhuji.
We all have to recite,
Okay.
repeat also. Yep.
Yeah. Translation. Beside these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior.
No. Praveen Prabhu, we also repeat Prabhu.
Oh, okay,
That
Prabhuji.
you have to
Okay,
stop
Prabhuji.
in it. Particular
Beside these,
comma.
O mighty armed Arjuna,
Besides
Besides
this,
this,
Besides
mighty
this, O
of
mighty armed
Arjuna,
Arjuna,
there is another
there is
there is
another
another
superior energy of mine
superior
superior
energy of
energy of mine
which comprises the living entities
which comprises the living entity
who are exploiting the
who are exploiting
exploiting the
resources of this material
resources
of
of
this material
inferior nature.
inferior nature.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead.
Bhagavad Gita 7.14 Daivi hesha gunamayi
Devi Harisha Gunamayi
mama maya duratyaya
Maya Duratya
mame vaye prapadyante
Mami Vaye Prapadyante
maya metam taranti te
मायामेतं
Etam
तरन्ति ते।
Trantite
Daivi hesha gunamayi Sorry. Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya
Maya Duratya
mami vaye prapadyante maya metam taranti te
Mami Vaye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite.
Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mame vaye prapadyante maya metam taranti te
Esha Gunamayi Maya Duratya Mami Vaye Prapadante Mayam Etam Tarantite. Translation. This divine energy of mine,
This divine energy of mine
consisting of three modes
consisting of the three modes
of material nature,
of material nature
is difficult to overcome,
is difficult to
overcome.
but those who have
those
Who have
surrendered unto me
surrendered unto me
can easily cross beyond it.
can easily cross beyond it.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Praveen, one small thing. Prabhu. When you take up the translation, try to see, connected after many births and deaths. He who is actually in knowledge and surrender unto like that. You can think the translation and properly.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Bhagavad Gita 8.5 Antakale cha
1 second. Oh, there is one more verse.
Okay, 7.19. Yeah. Bhagavad Gita 7.19 Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyate
Jnanavan mam prapadyate
Vasudevah sarvamiti
Vasudeva Sarvamiti
Samahatma sudurlabha
Samahatma Sudurlabha
Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyate
Bahunam
Bahunam
Janmanam
Janmanamante
प्रपद्यते
वासुदेवः सर्वमिति समहात्मा सुदुर्लभ
Vasudeva Sarvamiti Mahatma Sudurlabha
बहुनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मान् प्रपद्यते वासुदेव सर्वमिति समहात्मा सुदुर्लभ
बहुलां
Janmanamante Jnanavan Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Mahatma Sudurlabha. Translation. After many births and deaths,
After many births and deaths,
he who is actually in knowledge
He who is actually knowledge
surrenders unto me,
surrenders unto me,
knowing me to be the cause of all causes,
knowing me to be the cause of all causes
and all that is.
and all that is.
Such a great soul is very rare.
Such a
such a
great
great
soul
soul
is
is
very rare.
very rare. It's nice. Yep.
Bhagavad Gita 8.5 Antakale cha mameva
Antakale cha mameva
Maran muktva kalevaram
kalevaram
Yaprayati samadbhavam
yaprayati samadbhavam
Yati natyastra samshaya
yati nastyatra samshaya
Antakale cha mameva Smaran muktva kalevaram
Antakale
cha mameva smaran muktai kalevaram
Yaprayati samadbhavam Yati nastyatra samshaya
Parayati samadbhavam yati natyatra samsyah.
Antakale cha mameva Smaran muktva kalevaram Yati nasya Yatrayati samadbhavam Yati nasyatra samshaya
अंतकाले च मामेव स्मरन् मुक्ता कलेवरं यत्प्रयाति
Samadbhavam yati natyatra samsyah. Translation. And whoever
And whoever
at the end of his life
at the end of his life
quits his body remembering me,
quits
quits
his body,
remembering me
alone at once attains
alone at once attains
my nature.
my nature.
my nature.
Of this there is no doubt.
Of this
Of this there is no doubt.
Bhagavad Gita 8.16 Abrahma bhuvana loka
ब्रह्म
punaravartino arjuna
पुनरावर्तिनो अर्जुन
mamupichyatu kaunteya
Mamupitya
punarjanmana vidyate
Punarjanmana
Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna
Sorry.
Mamupechyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate
Punarjanmana vidyate.
Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino arjuna mamupechyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate
Abrahma bhuvana loka punarnavartino arjuna mamupechyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate.
Translation. From the highest planet in the material world,
From the highest
The
Highest
planet in the
planet in the
material
material world,
down to the lowest,
down
down to the lowest
all the places of misery,
all
all
are
the places of misery
wherein repeated birth and deaths takes place.
wherein repeated
repeated
birth
birth and death takes place.
But one who attains to my abode,
But
But
one
one
who
who attains to my
my
abode,
abode,
O son of Kunti,
O
O
son
son
of
of
Kunti,
Kunti,
never takes birth again.
never
never
takes
takes birth again.
Bhagavad Gita 9.2. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam
Rajaguhyam
Pavitram Idamuttamam
Pavitram
Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam
Yakshavagam Dharmyam
Sukham Kartumavyayam.
Kartumavyayam.
Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavyayam. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam.
Sorry.
ఒక నిమిషం. రాజవిద్యా రాజగుహ్యం పవిత్రం ఇదముత్తమం ప్రత్యక్షావగమం ధర్మ్యం సుసుఖం కర్తుమవ్యయం.
పవిత్రం ఇదముత్తమం ప్రత్యక్షావగమం సుసుఖం కర్తుమవ్యయం.
Translation. This knowledge is the king of education.
This knowledge is the king of
This
education,
knowledge is the king of education,
The most secret of all secrets.
The
the
most
most secret of all secrets,
secret
It is the purest knowledge,
It is the
is
purest
the
knowledge.
purest knowledge,
and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization.
and because it gives
because
that
because it gives
perception of the
direct
self,
realization
of the self by realization.
It is the perfection of religion.
It is the perfection of
perfection of religion.
The perfection of religion.
It is everlasting,
It is everlasting,
and it is joyfully performed.
and it is joyfully performed. Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Maya tatam idam sarvam
Maya tatam idam sarvam
jagat avyaktamurtina
Jagat
avyaktamurtina
matstani sarvabhutani
matsani sarvabhutani
nachaham teshvavastita. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina
Maya tatam idam sarvam
matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavastita. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina mastani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavastita.
Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina mastani sarvabhutani nachaham tesav avastitah. Translation. By me,
By me,
By me,
in my unmanifested form,
in my
manifested
manifested
form,
form,
this entire universe is pervaded.
this entire universe is pervaded.
pervaded.
All beings are in me,
All beings are in
are
me,
in
are
me,
in me,
but I am not in them.
but
but
I am not in them.
in them.
Bhagavad Gita 9.14. Satatam kirtayanto mam
Satatam
Satatam
kirtayanto
yatantasya dridhavrata
Dridhavrita
namasyantasya mam bhaktya
Namastamam Bhaktya
nityayukta upasate.
Nityayukta Upasate.
Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasya dridhavrata
Satatam
Yanto Mam Yatanta
Yatanta Chadridavritah
Namashanta shamam bhaktya nityayukta upasate.
upasate.
Tatatam kirtayanto mam yatantasya dridhavrata. Namashanta shamam bhaktya nityayukta upasate.
Satatam kirtyanto yatantascha dridhavrata. Shantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Listen. Always chanting my glories,
Always chanting my glories,
endeavoring with great determination,
endeavoring with great determination,
bowing down before me,
down before me.
these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion.
These great souls
Actually worship me with
devotion. Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti deva vrata devan
Yanti deva
pitrun yanti pitruvrata
yanti pitrvrataha
bhutani yanti bhuteja
bhutani yanti bhuteja
yanti madhyajino api mam
yanti madhyajino api mam
yanti deva vrata devan pitrun yanti pitruvrata Bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajino api mam
Bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajino api mam
yanti deva vrata devan pitrun yanti pitruvrata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajino api mam
yanti deva vrata deva pitrun yanti pitarvrataha bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajino api mam. Translation. Those who worship the demigods
those who
Those who
worship
worship the demigods
will take worth among the demigods.
will take birth among the demigods.
the demigods.
Those who worship the ancestors
Those who worship the ancestors
Ancestors,
go to the ancestors.
go to the ancestors.
ancestors.
Those who worship ghosts and spirits
Those who worship ghosts and spirits
Spirit
will take worth among such beings.
will take
birth among such beings.
And those who worship me will live with me.
And those who worship me will live with me.
will live with. Bhagavad Gita 9.26. Patram pushpam phalam toyam
Patram pushpam phalam toyam
yo me bhaktya prayachati
Yo me bhaktya prayachati.
tadaham bhakti upahritam
Tadaham bhakti upahritam.
ashnami prayatatmanaha.
Asnami prayatatmanaha.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati
Patram pushpam phalam
toyam yo
bhaktya
Prayachati.
tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha.
asnami prayatatmanaha.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanaha.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam asnami prayatatmanaha. Translation. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf,
One offers me with love and devotion a leaf,
a flower,
A flower,
a fruit,
fruit,
or water,
or water,
I will accept it.
I will
accept it.
Bhagavad Gita 9.27. Yat karoshi yat ashnashi.
Yat karoshi yadasnasi.
Yas juhoshi dadasi yat.
Yadjoshi dadasi.
Yat tapasyasi kaunteya.
Yat
Yattapasyasi kaunteya
Tat kurushva madarpanam.
tat kurusva madarpanam.
Yat karoshi yad asnasi. Yat juhoshi dadasi yat.
Yat karoshi
Karosi yadasnasi yajjuhosi dadasi yat
Yat tapasyasi kaunteya. Tat kurushva madarpanam.
yattapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusva madarpanam.
Yat karosi yat asnashi. Yat juhoshi dadasi yat. Yat tapasyasi kaunteya. Tat kurushva madarpanam.
Yat karoshi
Karosi yadasnasi yajjuhosi dadasi yat yattapasyasi kaunteya
Kurushvamadarpanam.
Translation. Whatever you do,
Whatever you do,
whatever you eat,
whatever you eat,
whatever you offer or give away,
whatever you offer
Or give away.
and whatever austerities you perform,
whatever
Austerities you perform.
do that,
Do that.
O son of Kunti,
O
son
son
of Kunti,
as an offering to me.
as
offering to me. Bhagavad Gita 9.29. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshosti na priya ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshosti na priya
Samoham sarvabhutesu name deshosti na priya.
ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham.
Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite tesu chapyaham.
Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshosti na priya ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham.
Samoham sarvabhutesu name deshosti na priya. Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite tesu chapyaham.
Translation. I envy no one,
I envy no one,
nor I am partial to anyone.
Nor am I partial
to anyone.
I am equal to all,
I am equal to all,
but whoever renders service unto me
but whoever renders
Service unto me
in devotion is a friend,
in devotion
is a friend.
is in me,
He is in me,
and I am also a friend to him.
and I am also a friend to him.
Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo
Aham sarvasya prabhavo
matta sarvam pravartate
matta sarvam pravartate
iti matva bhajante mam
iti matva bhajanti mam
da bhava samanvita.
bhava samandita.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate
iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita.
iti matva bhajanti mam
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita.
Aham sarvasya prabhavu sarvam
Madhva bhajante mam buddha bhava samandita.
Translation. I am the source of all spiritual and material world.
The source of all spiritual and
Source
material
of
world.
all spiritual and material worlds.
Everything emanates from me.
Everything emanates from me.
Wise who perfectly know this engage
The wise
Wise
Who
who
perfectly know this
know
engage
English
in my devotional service
in
engage
my
in
devotional service
and worship me with all their hearts.
worship me with all their heart.
all their
me with all their hearts.
Yeah, last verse. Yes.
Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesham satatayuktanam
Tesham satatayuktanam
bhajatam pritipurvakam
Bhajatam
pritipurvakam
dadami buddhi yogam tam
dadami buddhi yogam tam
yena mam upayanti te.
tena
Upayantite.
upayantite.
Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam
Tesham satatayuktanam
Purvakam.
dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te.
Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam
Upayantite. Translation. To those who are constantly
To those who are
Constantly
devoted to serving me
devoted
Devoted to serving me
with love,
with love.
I give the understanding
I give
I give the understanding
by which they can come to me.
by which
which
you can come to me.
come to me.
Jai. Thank you all devotees for reciting. Let us practice like this until we complete this exam. Next time, Prasad Prabhu, you have to do like this. Okay, next week in 1 hour.
Okay, bro.
Prasad Prabhuji will be reading shlokas and Madhavi Mataji will be reading translations.
Bring Mataji also. Okay. Sit together and
బాగా చదివారు మాతాజీ శ్లోకాస్ చాలా బాగా చదివారు మాతాజీ థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్
Prabhuji, all glories to my Prabhuji because anta ma Prabhuji నేర్పించారు.
యా కరెక్ట్ ప్రభుజీ మా అందరికి సోర్స్ ప్రభుజీ
Prabhuji లేని అసలు నేను ఏ శ్లోకం చదవలేను Prabhuji. He is the source for everything.
గిరిరాజ్ ప్రభుజీ గురించి
గిరిరాజ్ Prabhuji శ్లోకాలు నేర్పిస్తే తొందర వస్తాయి.
యా అవును మొన్న అదే చెప్పాను ప్రభుజీకి
మీ ఎఫర్ట్ ఉంది అక్కడ కానీ నాదేం లేదు. ఎస్ హరే కృష్ణ వాంఛా కల్పతరుభ్యశ్చ కృపా సింధుభ్యశ్చ పతితానాం పావనేభ్యో వైష్ణవేభ్యో నమో నమః. అనంత కోటి వైష్ణవ వృంద की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेशन रीडिंग की जय. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृतम की जय. निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
Hari Hari
See you all on
Bol.
Monday. See you all on Monday. Weekend
Hare
calls. See you all on Monday. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam.